So the Anti-Defamation League, as you know, is an organization that cares about Jewish communities all around the world. We're a 105-year-old organization established in the U.S., but our mandate is really a global mandate to make sure that Jewish communities and vulnerable communities everywhere are protected. What brings me to Mexico today is two goals. One is to, again, check on the Jewish community to see how they're feeling, how they're doing. And secondly, is to sign a memorandum of understanding with the foreign ministry, which is a second phase to an agreement we signed a year and a half ago vis-a-vis the migrant Mexican nationals in the U.S. who are experiencing hate crimes against them. A year and a half ago, the Mexican foreign ministry came to us and asked for us to help them with our expertise of educating their consular staff in the U.S., across the U.S. They have 50 consulates in the U.S., to help teach them and train them about hate crimes. What are hate crimes? What are the thresholds for an act that becomes a hate crime? And so a year and a half ago, we entered into this agreement with the foreign ministry. Since then, we've delivered over 2,000 trainings to all Mexican consular staff in the U.S. Then we realized that another challenge is the fact that many Mexican nationals in the U.S. are afraid of reporting the hate crimes that they experience. So the second phase of this MOU that we will be signing tomorrow has to do with a public campaign of educating Mexican nationals and other groups in the U.S. for the need for reporting, how important it is to report these crimes, for the data to be collected, and therefore laws can be adapted and they can be protected, and for them to have a voice. There has been absolutely no challenge with the new government. It has been a very fluid and wonderful transition from the last government to the new government. We're very happy that we're here to sign this new phase of the MOU, and we feel that any Mexican government that cares about their Mexican nationals in the U.S. would be very much in favor of such an agreement. So we feel there are no challenges, and the government of President AMLO has been very, very cooperative, and so we're looking forward to continuing this work with this new administration. So the ADL, as a Jewish organization, as one that we have experienced what it is to be refugees ourselves as Jews in America, and given the history of America as a land of immigrants, feels very strongly about the need for legal avenues of migration for refugees and migrants of all sorts to come to America. I personally am also an immigrant myself. I was born in Iran and came to America when there was a revolution in my country. So the ADL feels very strongly that the fabric of American society is enriched when immigrants come in through legal means. And we have been very strong and vocal about the need for those avenues to be kept open. We have advocated for that with the Trump administration. We did a solidarity mission actually to the border in San Diego with 20 other Jewish organizations where we went, we visited, we saw some of the conditions that the migrants stuck at the border are experiencing. And we have been very strongly advocating for avenues for migrants of all sorts to be able to come to America in legal means. I don't believe that's a connection. We have seen, since we have been monitoring anti-Semitic acts in the U.S. and around the world for decades, we feel that anti-Semitism has always been there. And today, with the steps that President Trump has taken vis-a-vis Israel, for example, moving the embassy, ADL felt for a long time that, of course, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. So this was not a very controversial decision for us. Now, we have to also be careful about the rhetoric that we use. So sometimes I believe that the rhetoric of any political leader is what we have to be watchful for. And I do believe that this administration in general has had some missteps about the language they have used. So when we had the Charlottesville incident, unfortunately, in Charlottesville, some of the language that the president used was in some way seen by extremist groups as empowering them. So that's what we have to be very careful about, is what language of political leaders and other leaders can be used by extremist groups to empower themselves, to feel now they have the right to say hateful things, whether online or in person. And that's really the thing we have to be very careful about in all societies. In Europe, you have it in a much more extreme ways. In the US, we're still also seeing an increase both on online hate and in others. But I think there are many variables, and this administration has to be careful in some ways and has not been, but it's not the only reason that you see the rise in anti-Semitism. No, I think that the Jewish community here has a good sense of what's going on in the country. I think this week was interesting that in a matter of a short week, there were 2 incidents here in Mexico City, which really raised red flags, and the community spoke out about it. An employee of the City of Mexico posted on the internet an image of Goebbels, the Nazi PR leader, and we saw that the reaction was also very quick, very positive by the mayor, firing that civil servant and saying there's no room for this in our city. So we at the ADL didn't even feel we had to say anything about it. The Jewish community was on top of it. They reacted very quickly, and the mayor reacted very quickly. So we're very thankful that everything worked the way it should work. Incidents like that do happen, but the reaction is what's important. And the fact that so quickly the message was very clear that there's no tolerance for such rhetoric on the internet, and the person was released, was fired right away. So we're very happy at the ADL to see that. What I can tell you is that compared to other communities around the world, other Jewish communities, Mexico is in a very good situation. They've done a very good job of cementing their relationship with the government, with the local authorities, and being a part of Mexican society. So it's a very good role model for me to bring, as my position is looking at Jewish communities around the world, to have best practices and learn from the community of Mexico what they have done right. And I think there's a lot of examples that could be used in Europe and in other places of how to make sure that your safety is assured by having very strong relationship with governments, with your local officials, with academia, with the media figures. And I think they've done a very good job. Right now, at this moment, we don't see any real threats for the Jewish community of Mexico. I hope it stays that way. We still have to be vigilant. Some of the rhetoric coming out of the AMLO government, I have to say, about this difference between the haves and have-nots, the idea of the fifi, we have to watch out. What does that do more about rather than purely anti-Semitic issues? That I'm not really worried about.